I'm tasking you to the team looking at a new 18 catch and gut operation that went particularly wrong. They're understaffed, so the lifting might be heavier than usual. I know this isn't your usual focus, but the overseers want to get ahead of this one. Trouble's brewing across the Atlantic, and the possibility of a major distraction or second front is making them antsy. And nobody's happy when the overseers are antsy. Play taps for me today, boy. I got bad news. I'm bummed. So, welcome to SCP Decaf. I have come to the conclusion I may have to give up caffeine entirely. This is awful. Like, I can't put into words that truly do this state of affairs justice. It's really unfortunate for all of you, but also for me. I'm gonna take you back a couple of weeks because some stuff has transpired, and you might understand that for it to get to this state when coffee is literally like the logo and in the name, it something fairly drastic had to happen, right? So couple weeks ago, I found myself incredibly ill after a meal, after my lunch. And I was so ill that it made the diagnosis of the state of things that much easier for a medical professional. Now, I've been dealing with stomach stuff for literal years, going back to about 2011, 2012, where I had inadvertently abused ibuprofen to such an extent that it ate away at a bunch of linings and things in your gut that would prefer not to be eaten away at. And that caused a whole bunch of stuff, and things have never really been right since then. But it didn't explain some of the other behaviors and things that were going on either. So it turns out that I was right. It doesn't explain some of the issues I've had with certain foods or how I feel at all times, nor did the lactose intolerance diagnosis that I had in like 2013 or 14. It turns out if you take this unholy frickin' trifecta of things, which is acid reflux and IBS and lactose intolerance, you explain all of my symptoms perfectly. It's great. So here's the problem with that. When you look at like, how do you treat acid reflux? Well, you get on Google or you talk to a doctor, but they'll tell you the same thing. And it's like, you need to not eat anything that you enjoy. So like the bullet point list of shit that you need to drop is alcohol, tobacco, caffeine, chocolate, tomatoes, spicy food, citrus fruits, mint. I'm missing a number of things just off the top of my head. It's basically, if it would give you any pleasure, you should probably not eat it because it'll probably make things worse. And citric acid. Good luck doing your grocery run. See how freaking prevalent citric acid is. No carbonated stuff. So, beer is like doubly out. Just like the worst fucking thing to try and shop for outside of when I had to do like a FODMAP diet, which look that up. That's even worse because it makes no sense at all. So I had to give up caffeine because it was like caffeine it'll like make things to where it's more likely that you're going to have these like acid problems. So it turns out if you have drank caffeine or consumed caffeine in some method for long enough, and I certainly have been doing it for long enough, when you stop all at once, a few things happened. So yeah, you have a truly terrible headache for a solid 24 hours straight. This is apparently like as things that are used to being dilated in your head like constrict, but the blood flow didn't get that memo. You end up with like this ridiculous pressure headache. So that was a truly awful day. But a weird thing happened once I dropped all of that stuff, and I did everything on the list. I dropped, and I did the thing where it's like, okay, elevate yourself when you sleep. Don't eat like 3 hours before you go to bed. And I do all of this stuff, and the damnedest thing happens. I have no symptoms. It is eerie not having these symptoms because I've dealt with them for so long that these signals were literally constant of like discomfort, nausea, blah, blah, blah. To not have any of them and to have it happen like more or less overnight after this incident was really weird. So I'm not like entirely out of the woods, because a weird side effect of all of this has been that I am not getting the signal for I'm hungry right now. I haven't been hungry since Thursday the 13th. And it's cool, I guess, in a way, because I need to lose some weight. So I dropped 6 pounds in 5 days, which is not great. But it's kind of tapered off after that. Like, it's kind of flattened out as I've sort of made myself eat periodically. But now I'm eating like 600 to 1,000 calories a day and still not really feeling hungry at any point. So it's weird. But I started like reintroducing stuff, and I have been like gently like, okay, is it this? Is it this? Is it this? What's causing this? What can I safely reintegrate in my diet just to open the menu back up a little bit? So caffeine came up. It was caffeine's turn. And the good news is there were no stomach issues, which I was shocked. Like, it doesn't appear to be the problem. So why am I giving it up? Well, I'm noticing that as a fairly anxious person, I've dealt with social anxiety for a long time, professional anxiety, and I should probably get a formal diagnosis for it at some point, but I have not. So those symptoms also were greatly diminished while I've been eating, way cleaner and doing this like acid-free thing. As I reintroduced the caffeine, the anxiety started coming back. It's really weird. So I start looking it up, and like the gist of it is caffeine's not going to cause anxiety, but if you're a naturally anxious person, it can certainly elevate that state. So I end up in this like, I'm driving, I've had a great day, and I'm, by all rights I should be elated, but I've had like 2 or 3 cups of coffee today, and it's like my mind is just like all this dread and like fear of frankly stupid bullshit. Like, none of this stuff is going to be a problem. You know this. What's your deal? I'm like, So here, my experiment now is I got to freaking not take some caffeine for a while and just live with that. I'm oof. So that's how my day's gone today. Sorry, that's it's a long story, but it might explain if I'm a bit less cheerful than usual in future episodes. You got to remember where I was and where I now am, and the comparison is frankly very sad. Anyway, on to happier subjects while I've got them. We have some site news. We have contests coming up. We have JamCon, another 144-hour JamCon. The deal with this one is slightly different than the last JamCon. Basically, things are happening in little 2-day sprints. You get the topic, and you get 2 days to post. and rinse and repeat that for a total of 3 iterations. You have to either, there are basically 2 grand prizes at stake, one for being the highest score overall, and the other with equal weight for trying 3 articles in 3 different styles. That is an SCP article, a tale, and a GOI format, for example. 3 different formats to your work, and the highest of the folks that attempted that will also be declared the grand prize winner. Grand prize in this case is the ability to pick an article of your choosing to be on the front page of the wiki for, I believe, a period of 10 days. Don't quote me on that. You're all going to quote me on that, I know. So those are the stakes, and I am pleased to share with you, I am going to be all in on JamCon this year. I am going to be participating both as a podcaster, sort of keeping you up to date on what was posted, but also attempting to write and win this contest. I will be posting basically 6 episodes in 6 days. That's my plan. Each day will be either a recap of the articles of the day, or sort of a guided thing as I try and write for the contest for that day. These are not eligible for early access for patrons simply due to the contemporariness of the event. I want this to happen as the contest is happening. I don't want to share that with everyone. I think it will be a lot of fun to attempt. I'm a little nervous, particularly since somebody, I won't name names, CO captains, I didn't mention your names once, the both of you, but this thing is starting on a Monday and going through to a Saturday. Not thrilled with that call. That's a lot of folks that are, have jobs and bills to pay, and this is, am I the target contestant here? Nah, probably not. But it is what it is. Perhaps that's intentional. Perhaps it's like additional pressure. If so, I hate it. But it is what it is. Those are the rules, and that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go all in on it, and that starts very soon. I believe it starts in 2 weeks. Yes, starts March 9th through the 15th. So stay tuned here. Keep eyes peeled on the site. There will be a ton of stuff going on. I have more good news. This one in relation to the Dr. Gears fundraiser. His wife, Denise, has kept us all in the loop on the situation. Gears went into surgery and came out the other side very well. They did remove the kidney in question, and had, my understanding is, looked around while they were there, didn't see anything that was worrisome, and he is on the mend. He posted an update as well to the GoFundMe, basically indicating he's feeling a little restless and wants to get back to his day-to-day, which I totally understand. There's a real sense of a loss of agency as you deal with cancer, and that is as significant as the rest of it in feeling in control of your life again. So I wish him the very best. I'm so relieved to hear that the procedure was successful, and just hope, that he can find a little bit of patience and tranquility for a little while, because it does take a little bit to get back in the swing of things. And a lot of appointments and things to do in the near term that are really important, and you got to do them. You don't always have to like them, but they're there to save your life. So hoping for the best for you, bud. Would love to get Gears on the show. I have a roundabout way to get a hold of him, but I don't want to impose on him right now while he's trying to, get back to a healthy and stable base. But maybe someday I can manage that. I have never, to my knowledge, to my recollection, I don't think I've ever had a chance to speak with Gears, because I first got into staff in 2013, and Gears was basically already absent. I hadn't really had a chance to speak with him then, and he's works with a couple of people every so often, but I've never crossed paths with him. So that's a bucket list sort of thing for this show. I believe I have more good news. Right. Okay, so I have more episodes coming up. I had hinted at a possible series, provided I could pull the correct strings. I have done so, and I am pleased to announce I will be releasing a 5-part series, doing deep dive episodes of SCPs 1000, 2000, 3000, 4000, and 5000 in collaboration with the authors themselves. They will be guest appearances on Cafe, and my first guests as such on the show. The order of them will be determined. I know a few of them have, they got stuff going on. I can't guarantee they're all going to be in the right order, and I don't really want to hold them all back until I can get them. But we shall find out. I am really excited about doing this because this is, I think, a great opportunity to potentially get never before heard reasoning or interesting bits of information on some of the most important pieces on the wiki. So that is coming soon. I know we've had some testing going on with some software, some interviewing software that hooks into Discord and lets you work with things as you kind of need to make it work better in this format, in this podcast format. So really excited about the potential there. I know every one of these authors, and I have known many of them for a number of years, and I am honored to be able to share their side of things with all of you. Speaking of Discord, Cafe Discord has been going for several weeks now. It has been a tremendous success, much to my astonishment. I did not think myself capable of running this particular platform for whatever reason. I had some trepidation with it, and I've been very pleasantly surprised. But it does, of course, help when the people that are involved in joining are legitimately, like, these are some of the best users on the wiki. These are, I think, the best, brightest, and most civil a crowd as I could ever wish for, and I'm very grateful to all of you for making this a successful endeavor. So the link to the Discord is available at scp.cafe. It's a link right at the very top, and should drop you right in. Come in. It's been fairly active, particularly in I have a channel in there called Nerd Stuff, which is been primarily dominated by myself, AIS Mallard, and SMLT, who is the developer behind the Discord bot Crom, who has got a long lineage of bots behind him. It's been a real blast to have a place to have this dialogue and help in the development of Scuttle and just, general enrichment of tech skills. You don't have to be a nerd to join. You don't even really have to be a nerd to poke your head in on the Nerd Stuff channel. It may not be quite as enjoyable, but you're allowed to. I've been having a great time with it. I regret not doing this earlier. So be happy to have you. Come on in. scp.cafe. Discord link is available at the top. I want to take a quick minute here as well to thank my new patrons since the last show. Trey, who joined at the $50 tier, the Black Velvet tier, and got a big welcome kit with a bunch of cool stuff, including a one of one. I did this the Nine-Tailed Fox design that's available at the cafe store is usually on military green. I didn't have their size in the green, so I sent them one in the midnight navy, and frankly, I might make that an option in the future. It looked gorgeous, and they concurred that it was really nice, and they are happy with it. So sincere thanks to them, as well as AC and SMLT, which is hilarious because I'm a patron of Crom, so now Crom's author is a patron of Cafe and thus Scuttle. We should probably each save our 5% of fees and not do this, but nah. I like being able to link to them from the Patreon page so you can see who I'm supporting. I thought it was funny as all. So thank you, each of you. As a reminder, if you didn't catch the last episode, the Patreon has had a significant overhaul. It now serves solely to fund the Scuttle backup project. There is information available for that on patreon.com/scpcafe and a future website that I should have ready here in a couple of days, and by the next episode I will make mention of that as well. Alright, now several days have actually passed in between the stuff I've recorded up to this point and now. Sorry about that. Had a bit of an emergency go on as my father-in-law apparently suffered a heart attack. And he's okay, drove himself to the hospital, and is getting taken care of. So, Chuck, hope you get to feeling better, take care of yourself, and we're hoping for the best for you. Anyway, how about we talk about some SCPs? How about we talk about the top 10 SCPs of 2019? This was the hardest thing I've done as it relates to this wiki and this project. I read hundreds of articles in 2019, so getting that down to 10 was really, really challenging. But I do have it. I have two honorable mentions. One from 2018, because Cafe technically started in December of 18, and this particular one didn't get any sort of a nod of that sort, but it would have if I had had more of a runtime in 2018. That would be the now deleted SCP-4203, titled Dear Reader, Her Mind is Haunted, by Kindly Turtle Clem. Now, Clem deleted most of their work from the wiki. I did not have an opportunity to ask them about it, what their reasoning was. I believe it's nothing more than overall not being happy with it, wanting to take a lot of it back to the drawing board, and wanting to only bring their best work to the wiki, which is it's understandable. You're not going to escape my archive bot that easily. So if you do go to scp.cafe and on the top little menu, the far right, it says episode reference. And this article is still available. Under SCP-4203, there is the word archive in parentheses that will take you to the SCP Cafe wiki, where you can see this article as it was when I discussed it. And I have a good number of the articles preserved in that way. I really loved 4203. It was under the same reasoning as what's guiding me in my top 10 for 2019, and that is that I think about it long after I finished reading it. Really surreal imagery and really beautiful prose when it is when it's written here. All of this, the journals that were posted in the end of the article are just haunting. Really did love it, and was very sorry to see it be deleted, because I thought it was hugely just an outstanding work. So that's my 2018 pick, and that would be by virtue of only having 2 weeks of runtime. My pick for best of the show's coverage in 2018. My 2019 honorable mention, just outside of the top 10. It's like, do I do a top 11, or do I, just stick with my gut, do the 10? So I did the 10, and I was like, but I really got to talk about this 11th one. So we'll call this an honorable mention. This is SCP-4924, Tunnel Revenant by Dr. Balthazar. I discussed this article in the Week 36 recap. I love it for being a tremendous throwback piece. It's something that I can point to when new writers want to capture the feel of Series 1 and Series 2 articles. It touches on a lot of those things that bring out the best in that style of writing. You have sort of visceral graphic horror. You've got action logs that are coherent and gripping. You've got an entity that is, just really gross and malevolent. Just altogether really, really solid, and really enjoyed it, and still think about some of those set pieces that were laid out in the action log. Now, coming in at number 10 is SCP-4596, titled A Farm Upstate by the Mighty McBee. I covered this one in the weeks 49 and 50 recap back in December, and I believe my words were something to the effect of, I hate this so goddamn much. So I picked this one for sticking with me. It is one that goes after me in just the right way to be brutally effective by combining sort of that bizarre end of death, things aren't dying when they should, and applying that to, to puppies and kitties and stuff. Like, goddamn, that's really like one of the worst things you could do to me. So just on that basis, it stuck with me, of course. Everything on it is solid, and then the ending to it, this, the little letter that puts everything into perspective and explains all of what we're seeing, is, I think, the exact right way to play something like this. Something that but I certainly was one that had heard that story told to them as a child, and and to see what the other side of the coin might actually look like. It's really fucked up, and it set out to do a certain thing, to creep people out and to make people say thanks, I hate it, and it succeeded beyond its wildest ambitions at doing so. It's currently at plus 74. I think given the overall short length of it, and not a ton to really dig into on like a deep level, that's probably about right. But it's, I say it over and over again, not everything has to put a man on the moon. This was going after simple storytelling and did it and got after people. And when you go and look at the comments to this thing, you see a lot of, this was simple, well delivered, didn't overstay its welcome, as T. Rutherford said. Just, what else do you need to do with a simple idea other than execute it simply and to the best of your abilities? So, the Mighty McBee, can't believe we're promoting him to moderator after inflicting this on me, but that appears to be the case. Congratulations, by the way, well earned, but I will resent you for this piece for quite a while yet. Moving on to number 9, SCP-4486, titled Happy is Relative by Mini-Meats. This was actually covered in the same show, that week's 49 and 50 show, and on its face, it takes a relatively obvious concept of, Ronald McDonald is an SCP, right? Like, this isn't, this is certainly not something that hasn't even been attempted before. But it is, as always, in the execution, and it's in the dialogue, particularly, how we have this, sort of, we get really into the, proper care and feeding of your Ronald McDonald tulpa, I guess, making him out to be something like truly horrific, and doing that smartly through dialogue and through letters, and ending it in a way that it justifies all of the work and ties it in a plausible way to the real world, which is always something that I like to see attempted. I was reminded in a way of another work that sort of did the popular item as an SCP with more sinister roots in Coke, Cow, and Capitalism by Dr. Akimoto, SCP-4677. And the reason that I picked this one over that one was simply because the imagery in this one was more, I was able to visualize it more easily than the other. But Coke, Cow, and Capitalism was a late scratch from this. Like, it was not outside the running by much. But it was the real world tie-ins are something that, when they are attempted and when they're rooted in a way that they can't really be sussed out, like you can't go to Wikipedia and find something that overtly contradicts what is stated in the article, it's something that I think can really elevate a piece. That was done well in 4486, and just that combination of the real world tie-ins, the imagery, and the dialogue made this, for me, one of the best articles of the year. Before I continue, I have a couple of patron plugs. AIS Mallard would like to plug SCP-001-EX, a good boy, calling it a fantastic skip, and 001, about self-optimizing machines that did two things I really like: talked about AI without it being a human wearing tinfoil, and was engaging for those without a tech background. That's really difficult when you get into real tech-centric stuff. He also says, on top of that, the fact that everything was non-anomalous provided a great contrast to your typical SCP storytelling. Also, Trey would like to plug Snippets of an Unveiled World, which I will have a link for in the info on this episode, calling it a collaborative epistolary format tale set in the Broken Masquerade canon. It is made to tell both stories that wouldn't warrant their own page and act as a springboard for new ones. Now, moving on to number 8, I have SCP-4730, titled Earth Crucified by Nameless Mediocre. This one was covered back in week 22. This was a first-timer piece, and I stand by my assertion of it being in the top 10 articles of the year. Again, my criteria for this is it has nothing to do with ratings. It is the articles that stay with you long after you're done reading them. And this one absolutely exceeded at that. The world that was created within the confines of this article was truly amazing. It is just, it's this, dystopian future, this this combining of really strange religious imagery and future tech. It all converges in a way that I really love personally, and that I found to be a really effective avenue for this sort of horror that it evoked. One thing that I tend to appreciate and am willing to overlook flaws in the name of is ambition. And 4730 definitely had a lot of it, both with being a first-timer piece, but beyond that, attempting some things that even experienced writers don't always feel comfortable doing. You've got cross-links with other SCPs, a reasonable number of them. You've got dialogue amongst the O5 Council that I don't usually bother unless I'm writing it intentionally as a joke. It all plays together really well. Earth Crucified and the Greater Foundation are they're tremendous additions to the sort of shared canon that we have constructed. I would like to see others potentially pick it up and try to do things with it, because there's such, chilling imagery going on of this, unstoppable force, and I would like to see some more depth given to it. I also find 4730 to be wildly underrated, currently sitting only at plus 56, and I am... if you look at the comments, there were only a couple that really come out and explain themselves as far as reasoning for why it may be scoring relatively low for being in this conversation. And for the most part, they have to do with sort of lacking focus, lacking sort of a sense of cohesion, and needing a little bit of additional character. I think the thing has plenty of character given where we're at and what other attempts in this vein have looked like. This isn't wildly out of that range, the dialogue was panned. I think it got quite a bit of revision between it being posted and me reading it. So some of these are also a number of these sort of negative comments are on things that were then cleaned up down the road, and it may be as simple as that. Sometimes people read stuff on the recently created pages pretty quickly after it goes up, and if they don't like it and they downvote it and you fix the thing they don't like later, they may not even be aware that you did that. This is one of the reasons why It is really important to get your work totally vetted and be totally confident in it before it goes up, because you don't have a second chance in that regard. All that said, people are always entitled to their opinions on how things should run, how things should look and feel, and I am going to stick with my gut here. I still, think this is an outstanding piece, very vividly put together, and one of the more ambitious first-timer pieces of last year, as well as being a damn fine skip. Moving on to NumberSeven, SCP-3721, Obsolete Weapons System by Uranium Empire. This one was covered in the Week 7 show, and this was one I actually talked about with Uranium Empire on a voice chat in the SCP Cafe Discord just a couple of days ago, along with Captain Kirby and AIS Mallard and a few others showing up. Had a really good time talking with people, and did mention to Uranium Empire that this was going to be on this list somewhere. Really smartly put together, a lot of really clever bits of wordplay that they weren't related to the piece directly, but they're appreciated nonetheless when you do notice them, that they just, make you smile a little bit. What I liked about this for the purposes of selection to this list was the dialogue between the planter and the controller, and the way that the passage of time and their sort of mutual confinement changes their behavior. And this was this exact piece actually got discussed. The point in the article where they forget their own names was really, like, it was shocking. It was, just a tremendous way to illustrate their changes over time in this. Let's not call it Stockholm Syndrome, because that's something else, but it's something akin to it. You see this sort of eroding of their morals, of the things that both of them were, most strongly, believing in, or what they had put out there, and just over time, just happier and happier together in a way that is really disturbing. This was really an exercise in showing, conveying emotion through more just the change in dialogue, rather than being told how the characters are feeling. You can infer it through their word choices, and just a great piece. I mean, and the comments are very much worth a read. In particular, the author post where it's the reasoning behind this and what it's going after is more fully explained. Somebody sort of pointed out the similarities with 3721 and 2721, and that you've got sort of the two the two AIs talking and seeing sort of a change in behavior over a length of time. You feel like that's likely connected. It's not something that is really evident on its face in the work. If it's just sort of a nod to it, the piece can work anywhere. And, if you're a fan of something from an earlier series, maybe you take, the next series' version of that number. This article's currently at plus 121. And I think that is a a testament to how accessible this piece was. It was intuitive to most people what was actually going on in the work. And it's very much to Uranium Empire's credit. This was an outstanding article, and some of the best dialogue to point to for how you can make the reader feel more things by making your characters feel less. At number 6, weighing in at a current rating of plus 1,271 is SCP-4205, Eye of the Beholder by Wodenaz. I have a number of things that I really like about this piece, but let's start with the obvious one, and that is the look and feel of it. 4205 currently stands as the outer limit of what has been shown to be technologically possible to do on the wiki.platform. platform. Nothing else is, to me, close to it in terms of ambition and execution. It is... Seeing this was... I was absolutely stunned that somebody managed to make this thing work on our wiki. I was looking for, this is an iframe. This is something they sort of snuck in through another site. I'm just sort of seeing this in a window. No, you're not. And that the work involved in making that possible, to have the scripts all working right, to have all that stuff working in a self-contained environment, that basically means every time you realize you need to change something in that script, you've got to go delete the old one and put the new one up all over again. And it's such a pain in the ass. There's a good reason a lot of people haven't attempted it. Wodenaz has the distinction of also being the first article ever covered on Cafe in week 51 of 2018. They have improved significantly as a writer. Now, 4205 has a number of good things going for it. The fact that the article itself, as you sort of go through what would usually be offset pages where we sort of show a little bit of the story at a time, it puts together something that if you string it all out, if you put it on a full page view, it may not look like a lot of text, but you sort of intentionally have to slow down because of the presentation, and it feels like a longer and more cohesive work. And some of the cohesion here comes from there being a little less overall to actually have to absorb. There are, fun little things, little graphical glitches on this, sort of romanticized version of an old green screen computer. Just absolutely visually stunning. And I am very happy to have them around and having them continue to try and make the wiki a more beautiful place. Even if, tech isn't necessarily ready to adopt black highlighter in its current iteration, it has certainly become more and more well put together and more feature complete as time's gone by. And it's just, I love that we are attracting these, exceptionally technically talented people these days. We went along a pretty long time with a pretty short list of folks, and in the last few years, we've added a number of really talented people. So I'm saying all of this talking about design and programming skill, but also keep in mind, 4205 was a great piece. I think it was the piece that I had to sort of make what felt like the biggest logical leap on, is that what this means? And it turns out that I was exactly right when I, sort of spoiled it for myself later. Like, that's exactly what it meant. Like, you got it. That is a great feeling. If you can get your readers to feel that way, you're going to get rewarded with upvotes. And well, this one certainly did for a number of reasons. But it is one of the most difficult balances to strike, is not making your reader feel like an idiot in either direction, either that you're patronizing them by handing the entire story to them, or you're giving them so little that they don't even know what's going on. I still feel that way any number of times in a given week reading articles where sometimes I can make a guess, and sometimes I can't even make a guess. Like, these are all definitely words in the English language, but put together in the way that they are, I can't tell you what the story is. And that's unfortunate, because it's, nobody goes to that level of effort to tell a story for it to be intentionally, like, inscrutable. Like, it's usually doesn't need a whole lot to get it to another level of accessibility. So, just for all of those things, combining the efforts and making, a cutting edge technical innovation and design innovation on our site, combined with striking a great balance of accessibility and mystery, 4205 was a really, really outstanding piece, and that's reflected in its current rating as one of the now highest rated pieces on the wiki. It's in the top 50 of all time. So that's rarefied air when you are up in and around that conversation and you're in that plus 1000 club. That's still pretty limited accessibility. So by ratings, I believe that makes this the best article of 2019 by rating. Nothing did better than 4205 in the year 2019. Now we have 5 to go, and I will share my top 5 with you in the next episode. That episode will be going out 1 week early to patrons. You can be a patron for as little as $1 at patreon.com/scpcafe, and that all Patreon funding does go to the Scuttle backup project. So before we get out of here, I'm going to let's check the mailbag here. Let's see what I got. Now, I have 2 great questions from the mailbag. One is from AIS Mallard, who asks, what do you think makes the difference between a plus 60 article and an article that is over plus 100? There are a number of things you can point to, right? What, for me, makes the difference between something that feels like plus 60 and plus 100 is what I was just talking about, and that's the accessibility. If you have a great idea, but it's not communicated as clearly as somebody else's attempt to communicate that idea, people are going to gravitate to the other one more. And one of the things that you can look at when you compare ratings is that stuff that's over plus 100, plus 200, plus 300, you are very rarely left wondering what's going on in the article. So on stuff like around the 50s and 60s, you can find some people that get it and some that don't. I also don't think it can be overstated the effectiveness of a good image. I think a good eye-catching image will do the work of a lot of words in a containment procedure, a lot of words to try and hook the reader. A really compelling image will do a better job than your best efforts there. So, find something. There's so many resources available to get freely usable images out there on the internet. And, you can always, ask around. Maybe you can, sort of talk to others. Maybe you can make your own, or maybe you can ask somebody to help you make something if nothing appropriate really exists. But usually you can find something, even if it's only tangentially related, something. I hate to say something is always better than nothing, because there are plenty of articles with no image that are still outstanding works, but something is usually going to get you more votes than nothing. Tanhoney asks, what can kill an article for you even if you were previously enjoying it? And I saw this question like, I love this, but what's my answer? I've observed that it's never too late in an article for bad science. When that shows up, it is always difficult to ignore. Not necessarily just because they made a mistake, but because it usually indicates they did not seek feedback from the right people. That, if you've got questions about chemistry, there's some people you can talk to in the chat or on the forums about chemistry. If you've got computer stuff, there are nerds that walk among you. One of them is speaking into a microphone right now, as a matter of fact. But so when you do see that, it's kind of disheartening, and it's like, oh, well, that's really not how it works. And it's, kind of, pulling you back out of that immersion that they'd probably done a pretty good job pulling you into. What else? Sometimes things will change direction, and there'll be an inclusion, 3/4 of the way through that didn't really need to be. Have a, bad dialogue, throw in a weird, an inexplicable cross test, or basically, any significant enough transgression is going to ruin my enjoyment no matter where it happens in the article. Even, and it's most painful towards the end, because it's like, you were doing so well, what happened? We've talked about a few of those on the show. So there's, not one thing in particular I can point to that's like a constant, like, repeat offender. But I think we've all seen things like that where, you're really enjoying it, and then, something out of nowhere, just, you're like, oh, so this is what we're doing. I'm sorry, I was mistaken. But most people get it right. It's not the super common thing. More people get it right than get it wrong, for sure. So we're going to leave it there for now. I will be back with the top 5 very soon. I had a new lead in and lead out suggested. I didn't remember to do the lead in, but I was told I would make some people laugh if I went with the new lead out. So top 5 available probably as early as tomorrow for patrons, and 7 days after for everybody else. Until then, goodbye, fellow kids.